I'd start my interviews off with a little bit of a softball here. What was your first job in the movie and TV industry?
My first job. When I was at USC, I did an internship with a company called RSA, Ridley Scott and Associates. So basically, my first job was an intern at Ridley Scott and Associates, and I got to basically work with like Ridley, Tony Scott. I was more of an intern, obviously, so getting their coffee and doing the bitch work. But it was cool to see, work amongst like those kind of like legends, and just watching them was fun. And I have a cool anecdote with Ridley was when I was shooting my first short film, I went into his office and I asked him for advice on, oh, I'm trying to be a director. What do you think I should do? And, and it was really hard to get that, like to get the balls to walk into his office and ask him that. And it was like off hours. And his only advice was, there was like a cupboard in his office. He's like, there's some 35 millimeter stock right there. It was like short ends. And he's like, go ahead, take those short ends, just go shoot your movie, man. Just go make it. Don't talk, just go shoot it. And I was like, okay, wow, okay. Ridley Scott's giving me his short ends and telling me to go shoot a movie, so I better go do it. So that was my first kind of impetus into the industry.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Early on in your career, who were some of your influences that kind of made you wanting to get into filmmaking? And maybe some of the movies that also kind of inspired that as well.
Obviously, I'm a big action guy, so action directors have always been an inspiration for me, like John McTiernan, Die Hard, Predator. Those are like some of the best movies of all time, in my opinion. But those are my top 10. And obviously James Cameron, Terminator, Aliens. Those are the type of film, when I was in film school, a lot of directors were like into like Fellini and all these like artsy directors. And, I'm like, James Cameron, man, it's all about James Cameron. Those kind of like action filmmakers who, to me, it's a totally different sort of filmmaking style, but I love that ability to wow audiences and create tension and suspense and make it a fun experience.
I think people forget how hard it is to create a great action flick. Not just that anybody can create an action flick, but I think it's just a great action flick is hard to come by.
Definitely, especially because action is a genre that's so driven by the production value a lot of times. So when you're not given a lot to work with, sometimes it can be challenging to work within those confines and still make something thrilling, interesting, fun within the confines of the budget that you have. So, not everybody's James Cameron gets, 200 million to do whatever he wants.
Speaking of action, thriller here, you direct the upcoming film Wire Room. What attracted you to want to direct this project?
Yeah, I feel like the script for Wire Room is really what drew me in initially. It was set in a world that I've never seen before, this world of Homeland Security and the Wire Room and this whole idea of surveillance and watching people and kind of secretly, listening into their conversations and their phone calls. Just I've seen a lot of films that are set certain scenes in a wire room, but not an entire movie set in a wire room. So I felt like that was really what drew me in was, oh, this is a chance to kind of set an action thriller in a location that I haven't seen before. And that's always cool and unique and different.
Yeah, I thought one of the unique things, and maybe as the director, you can kind of pinpoint that, is like you're obviously shooting, and then there's some sequences where you're shooting like a security footage style thing. What's that process like? Because obviously you have to have what you're shooting on, but then also what's being shot inside that shot on at the same time. Take me behind that process.
Yeah, it was a conscious decision that I made early on. As I'm reading the script, I'm looking at the way it was written in the script is. It's, Justin's in the wire room and he's watching these surveillance monitors, and we never actually cut into the surveillance monitor footage. It's just him in that room watching the surveillance monitors, right? So it was a conscious decision that I made early on as a director, and this is one of the choices that you get to make as a filmmaker is, okay, so it's written this way, and how do I want to actually visually tell this story? And pretty early on, I was like, okay, let's shoot the stuff in the wire room, then let's shoot the surveillance footage, but then let's actually go to that location and shoot as if we were there too, so that in editorial, I would have the ability to cut between those and you could kind of go into that world as well. And I felt like that would, just seeing it from a third perspective, surveillance, I wouldn't have really been able to get into Eddie's head as much. And I wanted to see the world from Eddie's perspective a little bit and kind of get into his world as well, so that it's almost like him and Justin have this back and forth, and we're getting to see both perspectives rather than just this third eye perspective. So
Yeah, I thought that was one of the more creative things about the way it was shot, because you're right, it does. It kind of puts us in both of their shoes, right? You know what I mean? I love when a movie's able to kind of put you in the shoes of these characters and give you that "what would I do" type of thing in these respective character shoes. And speaking of Justin, you have Kevin Dillon playing that role, who I thought was really great in this. Like, you've seen him in a lot of different things, maybe lighthearted, maybe smartass, maybe funny, but this is more of a serious style role. What was it like working and casting and working with him in this?
Yeah, it was funny because originally the script, it was written as that Justin character is a 20-year-old rookie veteran, like right out of the force or whatever, Homeland. And so when we cast Kevin, I was like, oh, okay, this obviously changes the role a little bit. He's not going to be some, fresh year 19-year-old rookie, but we integrated it into the script, and I felt like what made it unique was I feel like I've seen that movie before about the 19-year-old rookie guy coming into the force or whatever. So it was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I mean, we're casting this actor who's obviously got a little bit more experience, and he'll bring a little bit more grittiness to the role, but also he has that sort of comedic background. So he was able to look at the scenes and ad lib some funny moments here and there. And I feel like when you're going to have a movie with really one or two characters for 90 minutes, what you want to make sure that actor does is make that character relatable for the audience. Otherwise, they're not going to watch 90 minutes of him on screen, right? So Kevin is one of those actors that he just comes off as like a fun, cool, chill, relatable guy. And his responses to, he would just do funny things where, Senior Special Agent Mueller, he'd call him, oh, I need your help, blah, blah, blah. And Special Agent Mueller, Bruce's character is like, what are you calling me for, man? And then he hangs up on him, and Kevin, he gives this weird look, and he's just like, oh, this guy, so it was like these funny little moments between him where it made it like kind of relatable, and as an audience, you really kind of want to root for him.
Yeah, and of course, on the flip side, you had Eddie, which Oliver Trevena, someone I wasn't very familiar with prior to watching, but somebody that I'm definitely intrigued moving forward with his performance in this film. Take me behind casting this very pivotal role with someone like him.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where, funny enough, in the script, it was written as a typical Mexican cartel boss guy. And I was like, oh God, we've seen this so many times. It's him again, the Mexican. So once we, I was like, well, what about Oliver and he brought in, once we cast him, I was like, whoa, this could change the role in an interesting way. And he was actually, this is what's good about working with great actors. He came to me and said, what if it's an Irish arms dealer who's like working with the Mexican cartel? And I was like, oh, I've never seen that before. Yeah, that's. So then he was like, well, I'm going to base my performance a little bit on like a Conor McGregor kind of guy with this giant ego. And I was like, I'm loving this direction, man. This is what I'm talking about. And he reminds me of Gary Oldman in True Romance. I don't know if you remember that movie, but remember when Gary Oldman played that crazy, pimp or whatever. And
yeah, I remember that very well.
Such a unique kind of take on that. So that's why the first scene I have him in a bathrobe, it's almost like an homage to True Romance, where the Gary Oldman character is just like chilling in his bathrobe. But I felt like Oliver just really, he was able to elevate the role, make it different, unique, and just kind of make you kind of like relate to that character too, and see him as who he was. And he wasn't just like a one note kind of guy. So I thought that was a fun role, and I actually liked that character a lot.